I am Bernard Flowers. I go by Berney. Most people know me as Berney. I am a retired United States Air Force officer. I'm also a veteran of the civil service where I spent 14 years. I retired as a senior advisor to the Department of Homeland Security from the Department of Defense. What that really means was I was a member of a cabinet secretary's staff, Secretary Mayorkas, and my expertise is that I got to see a lot of the inside of the government very, very close. And I'm also a former congressional candidate. I ran for Congress in District 3. I was unsuccessful, but I am undeterred. And I'm also a conservative. I believe in, Black unity. And the bottom line is I'm just trying to help all people be the best that they can be.
Awesome. And here we go. But your official, when you retired, was Lieutenant Colonel, right?
It was.
Okay, I want to make sure I get that right. So if I get it wrong, you say no, he had one more rank, or somebody try to say that's false balance. One of those people.
All I
So
care about is the check keeps coming. That's what's up.
no, that is true. But and I actually had a former team member who ran for office who did a little bit of a lying, black man, brother of mine, but he was doing a little bit of too much on his resume, and he was interviewing with some military people, and they shut him down in Massachusetts. He got in a little bit of trouble trying to be too, to us, we're civilians. Okay, whatever you say, you go on the radio talking that nonsense in Fall River, Massachusetts, you got checks. I want to make sure I got that right.
Everything
All right,
I say is the truth.
here we go.
To be lying.
Yeah, I hear you. I feel you. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, it's Kellen, and today on Diversified Game, yes, you heard it right, highly decorated Officer Lieutenant Colonel Flowers is going to give us the game on a time where just over this past weekend, we see the assassination attempt of Trump. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into politics and what the future is for us as a country. And those of us who are conservative, black, you want to say minority, but who are conservative. And that doesn't mean that you're Republican or Democrat, because you guys know I vote my interests. So I just stay independent and vote for those who are going to benefit me and what helps us as a whole. But Lieutenant Colonel, how are you doing, sir?
Kellen, I'd appreciate it if you just call me Berney.
Okay. Just Berney, not like the Berney, the socialist Berney, but the conservative Berney.
No, we don't do socialists. No, that don't work well for me. But the bottom line, man, I just appreciate you. And as I said before, you have overcome and didn't tell anybody else. What's up with that pool in the background?
This pool is 20 years of hard work.
20 years of hard work. I did 34 years of hard work, and I don't have a pool.
Well, that's because you're in that DMV area, and you'd only be able to use it unless it was inside. You'd only be able to use it for a certain amount of time anyway. But come on down here. We got plots under $1 million still here in Palm Beach County, if you're willing to be in the country. So thank you, though.
Man, I'm a poor righteous soldier. I can't afford that. I'm a retiree, bro. I can't roll in your neighborhood.
I think we can make some things work. I saw the suits that you were in, and you are moving and grooving. Don't get it twisted, you guys. We met at Renard Jackson's conservative event
summit,
and nobody in there was broke. Not even the pastors that I met. They had their tithes and offerings on them. And they had their whole team with them. So nobody was broke in there. And it's good to see that type of black excellence, because that's what we need to be seen and shown more of.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Where are we? Let's just talk about, right now, Trump, your opinion on assassination. I'm seeing people being so despicable online, talking about he staged this. And I'm like, this is like when you guys said Tupac or Suge staged something. This is where are we as a people where nothing is real? And unless I agree with your politics.
It's terrible. First of all, when we've come to the point where people can't run for office without having to fear for their lives, something is wrong. Something is dreadfully wrong. Now, mind you, I worked in DHS at a very, very high level, and the Secret Service works for DHS. And from what I know, and this is all still new, we shouldn't be making too many assumptions, but I can tell you that the Secret Service did not follow procedures. For example, why is it Trump was not behind bulletproof glass? That's a low-cost solution that could have been easily fixed. From what I saw, there was avenues of attack that the advanced team basically didn't pay attention to. I mean, somebody sees someone up on a roof, they mention it to the Secret Service, they yell it out to the police, and they didn't move the president, or rather the former president, out of the target zone. They just let him stay there, and this could have been avoided. I have been around weapons all my life, not just the military, not just the military. And I'm putting my microphone up here so you can hear me a little bit
Hit it
better.
a couple
Are we good
times.
now? Better?
Not yet.
Okay.
Say something again, please.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Hit the button again. I don't know what Zoom is doing.
Okay, let's try this again.
Oh.
Everything on my side is looking good.
Hit the button again. Okay, now I can hear you. I told you it's always during the positive stuff.
There you
Keep on
go.
going. Yeah, keep on going wherever you. Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you, man. As I said before, I don't know where I stopped, but the Secret Service did not follow procedure. That's the bottom line here, and heads should roll. I don't know what your politics are. Well, I know you're about being a capitalist. It's just like me. But for anybody, whether you're Republican, Democrat, in the middle, it doesn't matter. We pay our civil service to do a particular job, and they failed at this particular case. And can you imagine what would have happened if that bullet would have been a couple of millimeters to the left or to the right? If there would have been a death of a presidential candidate, we would be in chaos right now. I'm thinking civil war, to tell you the truth, and I'm not exaggerating. I've been 34 years behind the fence, as they say. I've worked in some three-letter agencies, and top of my time in the Air Force, I've got as I said before, a very, very long history working with the government at a high level, and we could have very easily had a powder cake situation, and there's a lot of people out there with millions. I mean, there's 400 million guns in this country. And for every one of those guns, I know people in my personal circle who have 50,000 rounds of ammunition in their basement. And they won't tell you this. So what I'm trying to tell you is we dodged a bullet, and Trump dodged a bullet, but somebody has to pay for this. And I don't know what is being said on the major news networks and that sort of thing, but it really boils my cookies, because all of this could have been avoided. This is a simple matter of following procedure, following checklists, and they just did not do what they were supposed to do. And normally when something like this happens, the chief of the Secret Service or the chief of whatever agency that's responsible, they resign. But I don't see anybody resigning. We will see what happens towards the end of the week, but this cannot stand. This cannot stand, because, when we start assassinating leaders and we start assassinating presidential candidates, we might as well be Nicaragua. So, but I'm running off at the mouth. Go ahead with your questions. I will answer as much as I can.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Feel free. This is your time to give this audience that usually focuses on business, but so much of business has to deal with the politics. But your everyday small business owner isn't getting the insights from people with a resume like yours. Because I can remember too, like when Jeff Duncan got shot at the congressional, softball game, and I'm like, where is more security? But even, mayors and judges, it's always the crazy ones we see online who have a whole security detail that probably don't need it, from some small town in Michigan. But I'm talking about you, Tiffany. There's your shout out. Super mayor. But I just, do politicians, and with your expertise, at what level do they need even more security? Because this is an American issue, but I've also seen it globally. When you travel, you're like, where's your security? Chief of police in North Dakota, no security walking down the street. I'm thinking, you need somebody watching your back because these are crazy times.
From what I understood, that the Trump administration or the Trump detail, they asked for more security and they were denied, from what I understand, by DHS. Now, everything is still, out there right now, and there's some anomalies and things that are happening. But from what I understand and what I was told by people that worked for the Secret Service for a very, very long time, people that were insiders, friends of mine that send me information, the bottom line is the request was made on multiple occasions. And you got to understand that the way the Secret Service works, their primary job is to protect the president. Got it. And then the vice president. Got it. Then presidential candidates. So the people that were on particularly Trump's detail were not the best of the best, you might say. I've been told that a lot of those people were tired because they've been following around Trump with a smaller detail than they should have. Now, mind you, Trump has been traveling. He's doing rallies pretty much every weekend, 2 or 3 of these things. So a lot of those people were tired. And with that said, the training and what I saw from a tactical point of view, I saw a man climb up on a building and was visible by regular people, and they brought that to the attention of the authorities, and nothing was done about it. The first thing that should have been done is the target should have been moved. That's their job. And as I said before, this could have been alleviated by bulletproof glass. Don't know why they weren't using that. That's a low-cost solution that could have made a huge, huge, huge difference. And, so heads need to roll. And I hate to say it, some people may not agree with me, but DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. This latest Secret Service chief, this lady, I don't know her name. I once did, but the issue of the day is they are advertising for, the Secret Service to be diversified somewhat, but in a world of tactical, shootings and that sort of things, bullets don't know gender. So think about that. You got folks that are 5'1" and 120 pounds trying to guard the president. And, deterrence is very, very important. And I know I may sound like a troglodyte, but hear me out here. The issue of the day is, I've been around Secret Service agents, and most of them are, 6'2", 6'3", big, 220-pound guys. Their physical standards are just as good or better than the Army. They're loaded for bear. Some of them carrying 2 or 3 weapons, and then you've got snipers. And the bottom line is that they just didn't seem like they were ready for prime time. And there's a lot of things that could have been done differently, but I'm not a big fan of DEI. I think that people should earn their way. I mean, in my case, as in the military, nobody made any specific nobody made a way for me. I had to do it the hard way. And when you're talking about guarding somebody's life, when you're talking about the opportunity to die for your country, the idea is to make the other person die for their country. So, when they were picking up Trump, and after he had been shot, I noticed that the lady that was in front, the Secret Service agent, she was about, let's say 5'1", 5'2". They were trying to guard him, but she wasn't tall enough to shield him. Now, remember, those agents are carrying body armor on them. Their job is to take a bullet for the president. But if you are not tall enough to cover the president, then it's not going to do you much good. Somebody could have easily shot him. And I know I sound that, I'm not progressive or that sort of thing, but you can only be progressive unless there's soldiers there to protect, our way of life. First, you got to have the security, then you can be progressive. And so there was just a lot of things that I saw as a former military person, as a person that's been around tactics all my life, tactics, techniques, and procedures. I know how to protect people. I'm not a Secret Service agent, but I play one on TV. So with that said, I've been around this stuff my whole life, and protection details and communications and tactical things I deployed. And so I know what it is like to keep people safe. Now, back to the size physically of the Secret Service agents, I don't have any problem with women being Secret Service agents, but where are the big girls? Where's that 6 foot tall, 250-pound chick that can carry a gun? That's who I want as my battle buddy. I don't want somebody so small that she can't protect me, because if we're in a firefight, I can easily take care of her, but can she take care of me? So this isn't a male female thing. I know plenty of, good sized young women that would be just fine as Secret Service agents or whatever you want to call them, but they just weren't on Trump's detail. And so we dodged a bullet. I mean, not just physically, but literally, because can you imagine what would have happened if he had been shot, if this would have been a Kennedy situation? This could have been terrible. And trust me, I know, like I said, a lot of people who have goo gobs of weapons. There are 400 million guns in this country and even more ammunition. And you get that riled up and it'll be awfully hard to stop. So I'm thankful that that God has blessed us for this situation not to be worse than it is. And back to your contention, I mean, you focus on economics. Imagine economically what would have happened if the nominee for the Republican Party, who was leading in the polls, had been killed. We would have chaos right now.
Yeah, we definitely would. And, over here, we prepare for chaos. Grandmother said, and peace, prepare for war. So it's one of those things where when we come and we teach people, hey, you made this money, make sure you invest it here, and have yourself, like Robert Kiyosaki says, a plan to get out of here in 3 hours if need be. But, I want to say something, not that you need defending, but when you talk about requirements, even the Air Force has requirements for their pilots. If you're not 5'4", or if you're taller than 6'5", you're probably not going to be allowed to be a pilot in the Air Force. So there are requirements. And Mayweather, even as great as a fighter that he is, he has some 6'5" and above guys always following him. And we never hear about Mayweather getting into an issue because people say, look at those guys. Yeah, we could shoot them, but we got to shoot in a lot. We got to have our 223s. These 22s that some of these kids are walking around with in their jeans ain't going to do the trick on his people. They're going to bounce off.
Deterrence is so very important. And, I don't want to cut you off, but we're right on the same page. I mean, as I said before, bullets don't recognize gender. And either you can cut it or you can't. And this is one of those situations where you need big people with large caliber weapons that might have deterred this from happening.
Yeah, crazy is going to do what crazy is going to do. If you're, one of those just willing to, risk it all for absolutely nothing. This is supposed to be America where you get a choice. And it seems like, if I don't agree with your choice, we can't be family, friends, and that is not the American way. But, when you were in the military, and I also want to, because I can hear the haters sometimes, people will say, well, you came up in the ranks. I'm sure there were some programs that allowed you to go further. How does it make you feel to say, look, I work this hard and somebody is always trying to take away from my accomplishments, whether they're white, black, male, female, there's always something, especially I'm going to say as a man, where it's like, yeah, I did this, and someone's trying to pull you down back into the toilet bowl with them probably. Can you talk about that and just how you kind of get over that? Because a lot of men I know suffer that. They're doing everything right and they're still not getting any of the reward that they think that would have come with doing the right thing.
It's tough because, yes, things are unequal. I get that. But also understand that we stand on the shoulders of giants. There were people that came before us that had it really, really hard. I grew up in the South, and one of my very, very first memories is my mother putting us under the bed because the Klan and the local Indians, the Tuscaroras, were shooting each other in our neighborhood, in the Black neighborhood. They came to use the Black neighborhood as a battle zone. So with that said, I went to the University of North Carolina at Pembroke, and we started out, I remember my very first day in ROTC, we started out with 117 cadets. And the day I graduated, exactly 4 years later, we walked across, and 3 that I started with were who I finished with. So it was an elimination chamber. And a lot of Blacks didn't make it through. I mean, I was the only Black in that group. So with that said, I take it very, very seriously when somebody says to me that you're some kind of diversity hire or whatever, because I know what I did. And I've been shot at. I've been in explosions. I walked away with all my fingers and toes, but I also have been in a situation where some of my contemporaries didn't make it through. So when somebody says that to me, it just really boils my cookies. And it takes away from what I've worked so hard for. It was not easy. If you can see behind me, there's a commission behind me. And that commission, I take it very, very seriously. And it doesn't say black man. It doesn't say white man. It doesn't say minority anything. It just says second lieutenant, United States Air Force. And I worked hard for that. And, I made it all the way up to lieutenant colonel. And I am very proud of that. But anybody that denigrates that is going to have a real problem with me, because the path that I chose is not an easy one.
And I would love to see a movie on what you had described about, the Native Americans in the Klan. Looking it up, the Battle of Hayes Pond is the only thing I can see of something talking about that. But that's something that you don't see movies are talked about, and just how that, back then, how things were. And the reservation now, go pick one. A lot of them are just, it's sad. It's sad to see. You put these people through, try to whitewash them, done everything to brainwash them. They're pretty much out of fight, and their fight now is on the res amongst each other. And there's very few jobs on most of them. But that's something that when you decide to write another series of books, love to hear about how that made you feel as a child, because it's like, they do it to them and we're next. And that's sometimes what being a minority in this country is like. Wait, who's on our side? When you talk about, a race war or a civil war and all the ammunition, I think about, how do they know what side you're on, and who are you going to be shooting at, and what is that going to accomplish? Maybe from some friends of yours, if there was going to go down, who are they going after? Because most black folks aren't. When you talk about a race war or a civil war, who would everybody be shooting at? Because you have people like yourself who support Trump. You have, most black people I know don't have a Biden sticker on. So who does all this ammunition go towards, and for what? Like, is there any movements that say, hey, if it goes down, join our side? I'm not privy to that.
Well, here's the thing. War is chaos, first of all. It's crazy. It's also the most profitable thing on the planet. And never forget that. You know that to be true. There are people who want there to be chaos. And when you say, okay, well, how are we going to tell who's what and that sort of thing? That's exactly the problem that we have, because most black people talk a big game, but most black people don't own weapons. They don't hang out at the gun range. Very few of us, I had on my podcast recently a black female gun instructor, and she's the first one I've ever seen in my entire life. And I just turned 59. So what I'm trying to say is, a lot of these people talk about militancy, that sort of thing. Slow down a little bit. There's more to it. You got to learn how to handle a weapon and not be afraid of it. Most of us have been taught not to be around weapons. But I would not want to see any kind of war, race war, civil war. But I'm telling you that if you take into account the 11 million illegal aliens that have been brought into this country and the open borders that the Biden administration has allowed, a lot of people say, well, they're coming in here to take jobs that black people don't want. Well, if we put ourselves in a situation where, think about artificial intelligence, and I know I'm going way around this, but artificial intelligence has taken a lot of the jobs away, the manual jobs. So pretty soon we're going to be in a situation where we won't have jobs that the middle class, that have sustained the middle class. And again, when our white brothers and sisters get a cold, we get the flu, and it all comes back to us. So when the folks that just came across the border, they don't care. They're not going to join unions. They're not going to complain. And those hard jobs that we say we don't want to do, well, those jobs are going to be done by those people, and we will be the ones left out. So back to the war thing, I just would never like that to see that happen, because there'd be chaos. And just like I said before, a lot of times we talk a lot of noise and we're unprepared, and we would get the short end of the stick no matter what. And we stand
Yeah.
out. Let's just face it, we stand out.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're, let's just face it. I mean, if you're Mexican or Chinese or whatever, you can blend. Me, you, we're dark-skinned Black people. We're going to stand out from 100 yards. So let's just face it. So it's not in our best interest to start anything. And there are people, like I said, at the higher levels that all they care about is economics. And they want to make sure that they're at the top of the food chain, and everybody else that works for a living they're secondary. And even somebody like you that has achieved economically, they don't see you as the 1%. They don't see me as the 1%. They see themselves. And when I say that, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, but this is the kind of thing that destabilizes countries. When a country loses a president or loses a major presidential candidate, it creates chaos, and chaos is good for the 1%. If you know, the 1%, their wealth went up 90% during COVID. Did you know that? 90%.
No.
Absolutely insane. And most people have no idea. So COVID wasn't good for us. And when we look at, the, what do you call it? The inflation, a lot of people just simply can't afford to live a good life. And so I know this all ties back, but if you wanted to destabilize the country, a good way to do that is to start a civil war, because we wouldn't survive. We wouldn't survive, and our country would be forever changed. And I kind of like it here, kind of like my lifestyle. I know you like your pool. So, let's not change that. Let's build upon what we have, and let's not let anybody take it away for stupidity.
Definitely. I enjoy my lifestyle here and abroad, and my audience knows that, just because I like my life, because I like my life, and things
Yes.
don't make me happy.
Right.
Being with family, and even when power could go out in another country, we still can cut up and have a good time. But that's why we have generators and solar where we go. I would say this: I just introduced you to Skip, who's another female gun instructor for the podcast. You'll see it on your Instagram.
Oh,
But
outstanding.
yeah, and she's just happens to be a Black woman, very nice lady. And I know I think maybe one or two others, but I like to see more women getting into firearms, because we have what we call it's a bunch of Black guys, but you don't have to be Black for our gun group. And one of our guys is an NRA instructor here in Palm Beach, and we're there. But to your point, we're the only ones, and they know when we show up. We're 5 to 7, sometimes 10 deep. Like, oh wow! And everybody is so nice. Everybody is so kind. And
Imagine why.
yeah. It reminds me of a Martin Lawrence joke. When there's one of us, they might give us an attitude. When there's a group of us, oh, how can we help? And
Oh, yes.
and
Firearms are a great equalizer, and I encourage anybody to learn their way around the weapons and protect themselves. But you're right. There's just not enough of us, and those of us who are most vocal are the ones who are the least prepared.
Yeah. Well, I'm from California originally, and it's funny when I hear California people talking about a fight, because I'm like, y'all can't even have a gun unless it's in the trunk, separated from the bullets, locked up.
Right.
Usually the last people who want to fight, it's like somebody with one arm wanting to fight, or tie my arm behind my back. It's not going to be the same fight. And again, I don't have any physical fight in me. I got enough to get out of here, because I just don't understand where we play in this, because I've seen this movie, like a sci-fi movie, and I've read this book. For the minority, it's not like we have a lot of leverage. It's not like, we have a factory and things that we can build. So for me, it's not a fight and run. It's that I've prepared myself and my finances to be able to have multiple places to go and be comfortable.
There you
and I
go.
didn't ever want to be a slave to anything. So if you see me like Ted Cruz in Mexico, or like Abbott during a hurricane in
Hmm.
China, you
Yeah.
know, it is what it is. Because what is really going to happen if chaos happens like that? The 1% aren't going to be the ones fighting. Tira la
No.
fuerza. They're going to show you all the Spanish and Japanese and everything else they know how to speak, and they'll be gone. And that's why I really don't want to fight amongst people, because the rich, the uber rich, they're gone, and they might have started the fight. And it does make money. In Sierra Leone, where I'm also a citizen by descent, for the last at least 3 years, I asked the Lebanese, why did you guys not leave during the war? Because everybody else who could afford to got out that I knew.
Right.
The rich, right? The blue
Right.
bloods of Sierra Leone, they were gone to the next countries, America. They had money to do that. And they said, and they laughed. They said, there's a lot of money to be made in war. This is
Yes.
home.
Yes.
So, to your point.
And what people don't seem to understand is, what we have going on in the Ukraine, those bombs and bullets are made somewhere. They're made here right in the United States. And the companies that make those things, they want there to be war because there's profit. There's always been profit in war. And I will tell you that this country, if I'm not mistaken, has been at war with somebody for all but 27 years of its existence. And the
Wow.
people who make the profits, I mean, I've seen people walking around, well, missing legs, missing arms. I mean, PTSD, you name it. Poor people from the South generally are the ones who do the fighting. And we come back all broke up. I'm lucky that I got all my fingers and toes. But the issue today is the profiteers up in New York are the ones who want to maintain war. And I don't want to fight their wars anymore. I don't want my children, I don't want your children to have to go out and fight economic wars. For example, if you look at Iraq, our Iraq war, what did we get out of that? I was told by Dick Cheney, or we were told, that we would be welcomed as liberators. Well, while bullets were flying across my head at Camp Victory, I didn't feel like a liberator. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
better yet, during 9/11, there were no Iraqis or Afghanis on those planes, the planes that crashed into the World Trade Center. They were all Saudis, but we didn't go to war with Saudi. We went to war with Iraq, and we went to war with Afghanistan. So I may be saying some things that you guys have already heard before, but the bottom line is war is the most profitable thing in the world. And we need to minimize it. We need to bring back home some of those profits, and there's nothing that America can't do within its borders, because we pretty much have all the resources that we need to be self-sufficient. But again, we're sending $200 billion over to the Ukraine when Baltimore is dying, when Detroit is dying, when New York is dying, and we're bringing other people into the chaos. And that's just absolutely ridiculous. And I know we're kind of off topic. The bottom line is that what happened to Trump, whether you believe him, whether you are a supporter, whatever, when public figures can't run for office without, risking their lives, we got a banana republic going on here. We've got fascism, and fascism is never good for Black people.
And what is a solution that your everyday person can do? Because a lot of people just throw their hands up and say, what can I do? I can't stop them from sending money to Ukraine. I can't stop or help with any messaging. Doesn't matter if I donate $5 or, $1,000. What can that everyday person do?
Are you tired of the violence, tired of the injustice, police brutality, rampant discrimination, lack of gun control in this failed biased socioeconomic experiment called America? Or maybe you need a break from the relentless grind and want to regain control of your destiny, your wealth, your health, and your purpose. DiversifiedGame.com has the right course for you. Prepare for my first trip to Africa. Looking to reconnect with your roots, start a new business, or just a fresh start? Africa, aka the motherland, is waiting. Don't let the Chinese and the Mzungus have the fun and also take over the motherland. From Cairo to Mombasa, from Dakar to Cape Town, Africa has something for everyone, from business opportunities to the most amazing people, safety, leisure, and landscapes. The opportunities abound. It is time for the diaspora to reconnect with their roots. Time to reconnect with the birthplace of humanity. Africa is the last frontier. Get your head in the game and reclaim your legacy. The writing is on the wall. Babylon is falling. Give up the stress, grind, and violence inflicted on our people on this continent and prepare for a journey of restoration and joy by connecting with the land of your ancestors. Check out our new course and kick off your adventure at diversifiedgame.com.
Well, I just left I just spoke at a school board candidates meeting over not far from me, about 20 minutes away here in Maryland. And there's a young Black lady by the name of Latoya Congolo. Wonderful woman, business owner. She's running for school board. And we need to get involved in politics, because if you don't get involved in politics, you will find yourself at the mercy of politicians. And they can pass anything they want to if you're not paying attention. And apathy is our enemy. And I told you myself, I ran for Congress just recently. I was unhappy with some of the things I saw in the federal government. And with my background, I thought that I could do something about it. I got out there. I did not win, but I am undeterred. And I find myself still helping out people like Latoya. She asked me to come and speak. I spoke at another congressional candidates event not long ago. I'm on my Republican Central Committee here. Yeah, a Black man on the Republican Central Committee in Howard County, Maryland. Yes, it does exist. But the main thing is we need to get involved, because here's the thing. As Black people, we generally are family-oriented people. But those who are in charge, our Black civil rights movement has been usurped by the LGBT alphabet, whatever, and I got a real problem with that, because their problems and my problems are not the same. And I find it very reprehensible that they have usurped and overcome our movement. People have died and fought for the rights that we have now, for the right to sit in front of your beautiful pool. You know what I mean? And so
how did that happen? You haven't sat down on your thumbs just working at, Jiffy Lube. How did that happen that Black issues became LGBT issues? Because it's like most Black folks don't hate, that choir director in the church. But when you start taking over, I'm being funny, y'all, I'm sorry. But when did their issues almost trump ours? Where we say, wait, we have these issues, and then they come and they take them over, and they, they're wise. They usually use somebody Black who's in the community. And it's like, if you don't have kids, or if you're not, no, we're not, it's not the same issue. When did that happen? Do you have a year, a time, a person?
Well, to me, and I wrote a book not long ago called Black
Values Matter.
Yeah, and I'll have to send you a copy if you hadn't read it already. But the issue of the day is that you go back to the 60s with the Great Society, Lyndon Baines Johnson. As soon as Kennedy died, he takes over. First of all, Lyndon Baines Johnson was one of the biggest racists you ever want to know. I know that because I lived in the hill country of Texas during my time in the military. And I heard many, many, many stories. And if you read his biography, I mean, this guy was terrible. And word on the street down in that part of Texas is that he was a Klansman, but I can't prove that. I could probably do it with some research. But the issue of the day is his Great Society separated the Black community. You couldn't be married and get or better yet, welfare benefits. You couldn't be married and have an intact family. The government literally attacked the family and replaced it with a check. And when you did that over several generations, you got a lot of people that got to a point where they didn't need the father. So in the meantime, here comes Joe Biden with his 1994 crime bill, putting Black men in jail for minor offenses like smoking weed and stuff like that. And so you basically hamstrung the Black male, the fatherhood or the father figure in the family. So now the Black family is separated. And I know I'm stepping on some toes, but that's how I feel. And I'm not backing down. This is what I saw. This is what the research has shown. And then I look around at the community that I grew up in the South. I mean, the families that did well were intact families, mom, dad, going to church together, raising their kids. And the families that generally didn't do well were the single parent families. And so that's what I see. I see a government, I see Lyndon Baines Johnson and his social engineers from Harvard basically targeting the Black community. And in the meantime, I don't have anything against somebody's sexuality, but I don't want their sexuality to be forced upon me and my family, because that portion of sexuality does not produce children, and children are the light of the world. Children are the future, as they say. I know that sounds trite and cliche, but we can't have a society if we don't produce children. And at this point, without each woman producing producing about 2.0 children in the United States, if we're down, our birth rate is down to like 1.5. So we're not replacing ourselves. And if we don't replace ourselves, then our society goes to pot. Who's going to pay your Social Security? Because it's a Ponzi scheme. And it's designed because the idea is that the next generation pays the Social Security of the current generation. But when you've got more retirees than you have people paying into the system fails. So maybe these social engineers, that is what they want. But the issue of the day is back to this whole LGBT thing. It boils my cookies because their issues and my issues are totally different.
So are you saying it started even in the 60s, the engineering, but at what year, if you had to guess? Because I can just hear, even the LGBT, they'll say, well, we're having kids. There's all type of test tube babies and all type of things that are coming up about that they're doing. It's like, I don't mind having a man for a night. I just don't want to raise him. I want to raise it with my girlfriend. There's a lot of, crazy foolishness. It's not logical stuff for a fruitful society. But what year? Because growing up, I'm from California. I'm from where you would see the naked people in Berkeley, but I didn't hear everyone saying, hey, I'm trying to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend. I'm like, where did this come from? I can't watch a Tyler Perry movie without a scene that I never knew even existed in my life. My mind never went there, and the plot had nothing to do with what just happened. And I'm like, yeah, turn this off. I'm done. I didn't want to see that with my kids, with my family, with my wife. At what year did we say madness is okay?
I don't know if it was a specific year, but I like to think that the modern era started when Kennedy was killed, before I was born. It was in 1963. That's when Johnson took over. And there are people in this world that believe that the United States, this beacon of freedom that we have, is bad for the rest of the world. And we are the richest country in the world. Okay, I want it to stay that way. I want my 40 acres and a mule, and I still haven't gotten it. But I'm doing okay. I'm not doing as well as you, but I'm not hurting. I'm not missing any meals, you can tell. But the issue of the day is that there are people at the top of the food chain, and I'm talking about the World Economic Forum, that they feel that they need to balance the way things are, and that our country has taken advantage of other countries. Okay, maybe we have, but I don't know if there's anything I can do about that. But I do know that if we don't produce children in good families, our economic system will fail. And a culture is only as good as the people in it. And when we don't produce children that are moral, ethical, and just basically good people, eventually things are going to fall apart, and then you have chaos, like in Baltimore. Little old ladies that are can't go outside because they're afraid of drug dealers, and food deserts where people can't get proper nutrition. And you drive outside of Baltimore. I live 20 minutes outside of Baltimore. Howard County, where I live, is arguably one of the richest counties in the entire United States. But the reason is because there's a beltway around the Pentagon, and then a lot of people work for the government. They work for DOD. They're making good salaries, and they're seeing chaos happen, but they don't care because they're making a good salary. Now, go a little bit west of us, about an hour, go a little bit outside of Maryland or even Western Maryland, and you'll find a lot of poor people, a lot of fentanyl, a lot of places, small towns where there's no jobs. And that's America too. And there are Black people that live out there as well. And what's happening is those countries, or better yet, those The small towns are dying, and we can't afford that. We can't afford that because that's Americana. And I'll tell you another thing. My granddaughter is multiracial, or better yet, multi-ethnic. You know, when she doesn't have dark skin like me and you, she has a kind of a cocoa color, and you know, she is just as much white as she is black. So the bottom line is things are molding together and we need to get away from all this racial stuff. But I will say that the people on the liberal side have basically said, okay, let's take this racial division that we have and take advantage of it and not make it an advantage for black people who suffered and died, our ancestors did, for the way we live now, and that pool that you have behind you. And let's take that and give all the benefits to the LGBT people. I don't necessarily have anything against them, but don't take anything away from me in order to improve yourself. And when you go to these parades and that sort of thing, and people are walking around naked and, you know, with their whatever, I mean, that's just crass. That's not good for society. And then when I have to explain that to my granddaughter or some young child, that's a scar that's going to be in their mind that, you know, basically they'll never get rid of. So I'm a traditionalist, and I think that this country functions better when there's more traditionalists and less of the non-traditionalists to say that. And the bottom line is I'm willing to defend this country, and I've proven that through my 34 years of defense of the country, either in the Air Force or outside. And I see a lot of people that are benefiting from this, but they're not willing to go to war or defend this country from the things that would harm it. And there's also, like I said, I was going towards Ukraine. Why are we spending so much money defending a country that wouldn't defend us? But that's just my little pet peeve.
I think it's a lot. I think if you put a poll out there, the majority of Americans would say, at least just tell us what you're stealing from there. Tell us you're just not trying to piss off Putin because of, you know, this is a pissing contest. What are we doing over there? Because they would not spit on us. I know Ukrainians who have been over here less than 10 years. I know some who've been here 30 years. They say America should have let Putin do whatever he wanted to do to my country, and this thing would have been over. It would have been over. They would have figured it out.
Yeah. Did you know that first 30% of Ukrainians are Russian?
Mm-hmm.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Second, before Henry Kissinger died, I'm not a great fan of his, but he was a great diplomat. He was a wise man. And on his deathbed, he said, we need to separate the Donbass region, let the Russians have it. That's eastern Ukraine, because they actually speak Russian there. I've been to the Ukraine, and then there was a time, that's another story. I was the only black man in the Ukraine for, about 6 months, but that's another story for another time. Had no business there, but I was there on behalf of the United States government, so we won't talk much about that. But the issue of the day, it is not worth fighting for, because have you ever heard of the Azov Battalion?
No.
The Azov Battalion are neo-Nazis, and neo-Nazis hate black people. Bottom line, they hate anybody who is not Aryan. But our government, our United States government, has been funding the Azov Battalion. They're sending weapons and money over there to keep them afloat. And the bottom line is just, the whole Ukraine war is a money laundering operation. That's the bottom line. And as I was alluding to earlier, the bombs and bullets are made here in the United States. So the defense contractors are making huge amounts of money, and they don't want this to stop, no matter what, no matter who gets killed. And if you notice, I heard the Secretary of Defense a few months ago, right after Christmas, they were advocating for a draft. They want to draft American children and send them to the Ukraine to fight on behalf of big business. And I find that to be reprehensible, and I will do everything I can to stop it. And that is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I mean, yeah, I ran for Congress. I didn't win, but I'm not going to stop, because the American people are being taken for a ride. We're sending huge amounts of money over to the Ukraine. And in the meantime, our southwest border is porous. We're bringing across drugs and people. And, people were making a big deal about COVID. Well, I can tell you for a fact, we weren't vetting those people that were coming across. 3,000 people a night. We were talking about the idea of the Afghan retrograde, but we brought 85,000 Afghans across here. Well, the issue of the day is we couldn't possibly have vetted those people. We lied to the American people. We told them that we checked them for COVID. There were people with terrorist ties. When you bring 85,000 people over, there's no possible way that you can check everyone's ideology. And so if I was a general and I had a beef against the United States, I would send a sleeper cell over here and just wait until the right time came to create chaos. For all we know, that kid that shot at Trump, he might have been some sort of part of a sleeper cell for all we know. I know I sound like Tom Clancy here, but I lived this for 34 years. So yes, I'm suspicious of everything.
No, we want you to talk that talk because, you know, sometimes we say what that white ice is colder. So when a black man with all the experience that you have, right, proven experience, somebody will say, well, I don't know. But what you had said, I did not know the name of the Nazis, but our Ukrainian buddy, he's an elder and who has the whole history. He's like, yeah, he's like, Poland really should have go over to Russia as well. If this would have happened, if that would have happened, he's like, I'm an American. He had to prove, you know, he's an American mentality wise, but he's like, historically, America has overstepped their boundaries. So you're saying the same thing they said. And when he told me that the Nazis were being funded, but again, the name didn't resonate. I said, wait, but the Klitschko's are like in that part of Ukraine and they never say anything that's racist. And I'm thinking, you know, we would have, you know, found something on them. And he's like, yeah, why would they say anything? They're getting funded.
They're making money from the system. They're boxers. They don't care, you know.
But they're politicians now. You know, they're well, at least one of them is he's, I believe, the mayor, and the other one, I mean, both of them have doctorate degrees, but these are things that you're living in like a real life Rocky movie where it's just like, oh, what's going on? We don't know. I surely don't know. That's why you guys, I bring on experts who have 30 plus years of experience to break down the game, because it ain't one of those podcasts where Kellen knows everything at all. Let me know, Berney, what is a community give back that you are doing or that you would like to do in the future? I mean, writing the book and running for office was one of them. What else you got in you? Can we get more from you? Because some of us are already tired. And
I don't know, man. I'm tired. To tell you the truth, I'm not gonna lie to you. I spent $90,000 on this campaign. And that was my own money. And the thing is that I live in a place that is extremely liberal. It's D+8. If you know, there's 8 Democrats for every Republican or conservative, and the Republican Party is dead here. I mean, I was interviewed by Steve Bannon not long ago, right around February timeframe. I'm on the interview and he asked me, where do you live? And I said, Maryland. And he had this funny look on his face. And he said, how do you have any chance, or something to that effect? And I said, well, you know, if I can light a fire, I can get some people interested, because we're trying to protect families here. And I'm not that guy who's like Mr. Staunch Republican. I'm just trying to protect the people that are trying to protect me. And but what can I do? I can stay engaged. As I said before, I'm in the Howard County Republican Central Committee. Yes, there are Republicans that don't necessarily want to do what's good for the world. They are just interested in making money. Those are the old school Republicans. We don't deal with those. I'm trying to work. I'm trying to protect a working man, a regular everyday guy that's trying to take care of his family. And the issue of the day is that we need to get these prices down, this inflation down. There's a lot of bad things that are happening. For example, I don't know if you have an electric car. I don't have anything against anybody who has an electric car, but lithium, for example, is required for electric cars to be used. And lithium comes from combat zones. It comes from Congo. It comes from Afghanistan. It comes from parts of South America. And if we don't have that lithium, that means if everybody's driving an electric car 10 years from now, we're going to have to go to war to take it. Have you thought about that? We've got a lithium mine. We produce 1% of the lithium in the world here in the United States. And we got a lithium mine one lithium mine out in Nevada, and it's not even online. So those who are pushing this green agenda and all this lithium stuff and the electric cars, they're putting us in a bad position in the future. And furthermore, the electrical grid that we have, I got solar panels in my house. What Republican has solar panels on his house? Crazy. But the issue of the day is that our electrical grid is not designed for the future. And you've been to Europe. Look at the trains that they have, the high-speed trains. A lot of people take long trips instead of taking or rather cars or planes, they take the train. It's a lot cheaper. But we invented the train system, and our train system is almost dilapidated. I mean, Amtrak costs almost as much as a plane flight. So I know I'm bouncing all around here, but our infrastructure is crumbling while we send money overseas for political purposes. And I think that's wrong. And then the big takeaway here is people fail to remember that Russia is a near peer nuclear adversary. And I will tell you that, let's just say an accident happened and somehow or other we saw a blip on our systems that told us that there was a nuclear launch. The president would have less than 15 minutes to respond. Are we going to have Armageddon, or are we going to check our systems? Is Joe Biden ready to make that hard decision? There's a whole lot of things that need to be worked out. But the issue of the day is the American middle class is under attack. And most Black people like us, the regular college educated guys, maybe I don't have a pool like you, but I still consider you middle class. But the issue of the day is nobody's watching out for the middle class. And if we don't take care of the middle class, America dies. And that's what I'm about. And I'm going to keep doing what I do until we turn this thing around. And I will always be involved as long as I'm breathing.
Now that is awesome. And you guys, we could go on for days, but some of y'all have ADHD, so you have to watch or listen. Most of y'all are listeners, I know, in spurts. And I could go on and we could do this again. You guys, let me know. But what I really want you to do is go check out that Black Values Matter book. Great reviews on Amazon. So you guys go learn something, get off whatever Club Shay Shay is saying, and tap into something that will actually enrich your soul. Because a lot of what you and I have talked about this whole time is appetites. And you have a low appetite or is your appetite higher for something that's greater than whatever is trending? I mean, Trump is trending right now, and that should be, because, I mean, I'm old enough to say, wait, the last person I know who got shot like this as a president or former is Reagan. And when you saw them Uzis pop out when he got shot, and you're like, wait, the Secret Service has the same, back then we used to have the Uzi water gun. Can't do that now. You might get shot. But right. But it's like, you guys have to get your appetite up. When we tell you to fully fund your 401k, because most of you don't have a passport, so you can't just go and run or have an alternative. You're not going to invest in the global stock market, but fully fund your 401k because you want a great America here. And, get books like Black Values Matter or the London and Sydney series for your kids, because they're just Black girls traveling, and it's for everybody, because it's not this woe is me story. It's just some girls traveling, going to see the world the way we like to do as a family. Berney, give the people any of last words, something they can take home, teach their kids, their wife, as well as where they can connect with you if they want to hire you as a speaker. I said hire. Don't ask him to go do anything for, can you just, for the people. No, hire you as a speaker, as a trainer, as a father, what your father should have told you, but daddy wasn't around. Please give us the game.
Well, Kellen, I don't know if I can live up to all that, man, but I tell you what, hanging around with people like you uplifts me. Now, I have a website, flowersformaryland.com. I have an email address, flowersformaryland@gmail.com. If you need to get a hold of me, just either one of those two devices. I've also got the Loyal Opposition podcast. It comes out on most social media on Wednesdays. And you can just type in Berney Flowers, not B-E-R like Bernie Sanders. It's B-E-R-N-E-Y. I spell it differently because I don't want to be confused with Bernie Sanders, but because we are totally opposite. But the issue of the day is I'm out there. I'm easy to find. And if you need me, get a hold of me. I appreciate being on programs like this because I am pro-black. I mean, I'm not downing anybody else, but my skin is brown just like yours. And the bottom line is we have an opportunity to have a great melting pot. And I believe that our ancestors would be appalled at what we have been allowed to become, because we've allowed other people who don't have our very same interests to separate us from our families. And that is absolutely unacceptable. And so I'm for the family. I'm pro-family, pro-America, and you can be pro-America and pro-black family at the same time. So if you need me, get a hold of me. And I just thank Kellen for the opportunity. This guy is outstanding. And I want to tell you, I'm still jealous of that pool.
Well, when you're in Palm Beach, make sure you come on by. Let me know if I'm in the country, if I'm in the state. Hey, we are here, kind of homebodies. You guys who have followed through to the end, congratulations to you. And know that you can go to BerneyFlowers.com. Links will be in the description wherever you experience this podcast. I need you guys to comment. I need you guys to like, but more importantly, for everybody else's sake, I need you guys to share this game with somebody. It will change their life. Y'all be blessed.
Hello, everyone. Come along with London and Sydney as they show you around the vibrant country of Cameroon. Explore the heart of Africa through the eyes of London and Sydney. Two explorers who journey across the great city of Yaoundé, exploring its rich culture, vibrant market squares, cultural heritage, and wildlife. With giggles and excitement, London and Sydney Explore Cameroon takes you on a fun-filled adventure, providing insight into the country's culture and traditions through the pages of this book. It's packed with exciting stories and super cool facts about Cameroon that will make you go, wow. Get your copy now, available on Amazon and in libraries near you. There's only one easy way to experience the exploration of Cameroon, and it's through London and Sydney. Don't wait, get yours!